Check, 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 yes. Welcome to the afternoon session. When Ed agreed to sort of have me as part of this session for Tableau conference, I was very excited because Tableau is absolutely my favorite airline. I hear all these people complaining about their flights were late, and so that's because you didn't take Southwest. That was your problem. I was 30 minutes early, just so you know. And if you have good questions at the end, I'm going to share some of my A-list drink coupons with you. Okay? So just so you know, but that means you got to fly Southwest. I know you all are anyway. But my name is Stephen Brobst. I'm the Chief Technology Officer for Teradata. I'm going to be speaking together with Ed Haas, who manages data modeling and self-service at Southwest Airlines. And we're going to talk to you about agility. We're going to talk to you about hybrid ecosystems. We're going to talk to you about thinking around visualization and how to use that for analytics, not just reporting. Right? All this in 30 minutes. Okay, so this is fire hose time. And so this is the three-point agenda. I'm going to start us off with kind of the data visualization mandate. I expect this is preaching to the choir at this conference. Ed's going to do a kind of mini case study on Southwest Airlines and some of the cool work that they're doing there. He can't possibly cover everything, so we're just going to cover a small piece of what's going on. And then I'm going to talk a little bit more about this hybrid architecture concept and unified data architecture and how that works with innovation versus productionalization and these kind of things to make the analytics reality and into value. So I'm sure that you've all seen some variation on this chart, lots of variations on it. That line there, that blue line, is essentially the date on which the first Gartner report was published on quote-unquote big data. We don't even talk about big data anymore, right? Because it's just data. And you don't want to have a big data strategy. You want to have a data strategy, and big data is part of that data strategy. But the main point is that the data is going to continue to grow and grow and grow. Over the last 3 years, we've created more data than all previous 40,000 years of human history. And that will be, again, true 3 years from now, because we're on this exponential rise, doubling data roughly every 2 years, right? And so as we move from transactional data to IoT and sensor data and interaction data, and not just that I bought a Southwest ticket, but all the clicks and all the searches that led up to the buy of that ticket, right? Exponential increase of data for all purposes, for maintenance and operations, for marketing, for almost every analytic function, there's growth in the data. And so the traditional methods of working with data don't work anymore. We're really good at capturing bytes on disk drives, but data is not information. Information means that you've actually made it digestible and consumable by a knowledge worker, a decision maker who's not a programmer, right? Who can click instead of code in order to get insights. And so when we look at what are the characteristics of the kind of environment you want for doing analytics, I think of three different aspects of it, right? So one aspect is you need to be able to look at this sea of data, this ocean of data, and take your telescope and scan the horizon and look for interesting sort of aspects out there, right? You don't even know what it is. You're just scanning the horizon looking for those interesting observations. But then once you find something, you need to be able to zoom in like a microscope and look at the detailed data and the interactions and at a very detailed level, right? The cells, not the ocean of data. But you need them both, right? You need the telescope to figure out where to go look. And then once you figure out where to go look, then you need to be able to zoom in. And the last part, the spectacles. I don't know about your data, but I've never seen data that was 100% clean. Never seen it. The reality is you will have missing, dirty data. And we saw this morning at the devs talk some tools that are coming out to help sort of deal with outliers and things like that. But a good tool helps you do those things, helps you sort of bring clarity and focus on what are the things that matter and not get confused by the outliers and dirty stuff and so on. Now you have to be careful because some of those outliers are actually really interesting and it's real data. So I would caution you against, looking for only what you expect and throwing away anything that doesn't fall in those expectations. I've seen some companies go, the bad way on that, because that's actually where the interesting stuff is, where you didn't expect it. And that's really my last point before I turn it over to Ed, is to focus on, where do we think visualization has the best play, right? So you can use visualization tools for doing reporting, known data, known relationships, and it's much nicer to look at a bar chart than an Excel spreadsheet and so on. Yes, I get that. But that's not where your big value is going to come from. What I'm going to encourage you to do is think about visualization not as visualization for reporting, but visualization for analytics. So analytics is when you have the data, but what you're doing is you're exploring for the relationships, new insights. Right? Reports are the answer to questions you already know. Analysis, or what we're calling up here exploration, is looking for new relationships among the data that you have. Right? It's also interesting to, in some cases, sort of extend your data and sort of use it to sort of predict and so on. That's another very interesting thing to do with visualization, but that's very much related to this exploration as well, right? So the sweet spot for a lot of people is in this reporting upper left-hand corner. I want you to move out of your sweet spot, because I think you're going to get more value if you push to the right, especially in exploration, and also push down for sort of forecasting is sort of a simple word for anything we're doing is prediction. Right? So I'm now going to turn it over to Ed, and he's going to talk to you about the Southwest story.
All right, cool. Greetings, everybody. Good, mic's working. Thank you. I can hear myself now. I'm going to stay up here because this is kind of my safe space. I like hiding behind computers and podiums. I'm a drummer, so I'm used to kind of like staying in the background. If you need me to step out, can you see me okay, hear me okay? All right, good. I am going to fly through some slides here because I got to check in for my flight, let's see, at about 1:20. So let's get to it, shall we? So clicker works, yay. How many people here flew Southwest to get to Las Vegas? Wow. Awesome, thank you. You just helped our profit sharing. How many people here work for Southwest? Yeehaw. This is what we do. We pad the sessions, we try and get our people, nice and pumped up. And just a little quick sales point for my team. I will have a position coming open soon. Keep an eye out, southwest.com/careers. And so a little bit about Southwest. I probably am preaching to the choir for a lot of people that have seen this already, but this is the part of the presentation I know best, so I'm going to cover it. Southwest Airlines, first incorporated in 1967. First flights took off in 1971. Why 4 years to go from incorporation to flight? Well, because there's this thing called bureaucracy, right? You ever heard of that? There's also other airlines that really didn't want us around, and there's a lot of airlines that still don't want us around, but we're still fighting on. 48 years of profitability, and we'll be celebrating 50 years here pretty soon. And I'm kind of hoping I make it to that party, because that should be a good one, right? Been a simple business model. We get you where you want to go on time, and we don't have peanuts anymore. I know. Wah, 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 wah. We have pretzels, though. And if you take longer flights, like I'm going to talk about here in a minute, there's some more customer appealing ones, like to Hawaii. Anybody here flown Southwest to Hawaii yet? Sweet. Yeah, me too. I just did it about a month ago. 4 hours and 45 minutes on time from Oakland to Maui. It was good, let me tell you. Customer focus, that's what we're kind of known for, right? Our front-end employees, they're the bread and butter. They save our bacon every day. Back on the technology side, we do the reporting, the visualization, the analytics, all of our supporting cast and crew, right? I'm going to show a slide here in a little bit that talks about the many different departments we have that utilize Tableau. We've got people here from Tech Ops, which used to be called maintenance, and it took me like 2 years to learn how to call them Tech Ops, because sometimes Tech Ops is like people that do technical operations, but it's maintenance. So love those guys. They keep the planes clean and flying in order and things fixed. We got FP&A, financial planning and analysis. We've got customer service and support. They're the ones you talk to on the phone. And we've got some other teams represented here, so let me cruise on through. Here's a little bit more stats and information. You can go find it on our website. What I find really interesting is the Southwest effect. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but this is basically, whenever Southwest moves into a city, the other airlines tend to go, oh crap, we got to step up our game. They tend to, they try the smear campaign. They try and talk about, labor practices and things at Southwest Airlines. They try and talk about, bad stuff, but that goes away real quick because people look at bottom line, they look at dollar, they look at what they're paying for their ticket, they look at the service that they're getting. So thank goodness for the awesome crew and flight attendants that we have on every flight. Something else, it's in red, so whenever you see red in the Bible, it's what Jesus said. This is not quite at that level, but it's pretty important. We embrace change and complexity, and let me tell you, if you think you've seen change, come work for an airline. It changes on pretty much a minute-by-minute basis. There's a saying in the military, anybody ever heard, embrace the suck? It's for real. It's true. You got to be comfortable with change. You got to be comfortable with working in the gray. And I'm probably not doing a good job of selling that position I got coming open, but keep your ears open. There's great profit sharing, and you get to fly for free. We also want to maintain operational excellence, and we use our visualization tools like Tableau and Alteryx I'll talk about in a second. We have a very intense customer focus. I think I've already talked about that a little bit. I'll talk about it a little bit more. I'm going to close out this little reminder here because I can't see all the words. Okay, how do we do this? We do it through technology strategy, through business strategy. Our technology strategy, I don't think I really need to unpack all of this stuff, but I really do want to talk about what Stephen mentioned earlier, agility through a self-service strategy. What is our strategy? Our strategy is basically, here, customers, take these tools, go forth and prosper, right? We've been Tableau customers since 2012. The first purchase of Tableau, I did it, thank you. 25 licenses, FP&A, way to go. And we've grown ever since. I think we're a little over 500 licenses. I think I got some stats to talk about that. Did this thing? Okay, no, we're cool. All right. We also want to make sure we deliver on high availability and testing capability through processing and storage options. What I'm talking about there is basically we have some workflows. We have some visualizations that are real important, and they need to run on a little bit more important environment than kind of your typical self-service. So this is kind of a future state thing for us. We're going to have multiple redundant Tableau instances in different data centers, and it's going to be awesome. We want to enable our customers to make quicker and more reliable decision making. The fun thing about the team I work for, so data modeling and design and self-service, what does that mean? It's a lot of words. It's about 18 people right now, and most of them are on the data modeling side because we got a lot of data we got to model. We got a lot of data we got to land in Teradata. We're about 175 terabytes worth of Teradata right now, and we've got a pretty decent sized Tableau environment. In addition to Tableau, we've got Alteryx, we've got Teradata Data Labs. We had to roll those out in 2015 because our customers were blowing up everywhere going, I need somewhere to store my data. We couldn't do it in Oracle. Can I say that? We couldn't do it in that other platform because they're just too expensive, and it was kind of a hassle. So I have a small but mighty self-service team. Hope to make it bigger pretty quick. So the business-focused strategy, we want to be the most loved, most flown, most profitable airline, and how do we do that? We want to focus on customer experience, improving the customer journey at every touch point. We want to focus on optimized operations. So thank goodness we got lots of maintenance people here looking at Tableau, looking at Alteryx, looking at all these cool tools, and they're wearing us out, but in a good way. We also want to focus on being the most profitable because what good is it being an airline if you can't make money? Like I said, we've been making money every year since 1971, however long we've been in business. And even with the challenges we've had, we just had, I think it was a record quarter, Q3, just recently. So yes, profit sharing. I don't know if y'all have seen, so speaking about the most loved, speaking about the enhanced visualizations, have anybody seen the new signage and the new digital stuff we got at Love Field recently? So that's our bread and butter, right? So instead of just going, here, your flight's leaving at this time, it's getting in at this time, this is your airport, go away. We tell you things like, you got time to go grab a sandwich. You got time to go to the bathroom if you want. You got time to go walk the block, take your dog outside. And we kind of would like to roll that out a little bit more to different stations. This is one of my favorite slides just because I think it's a cool visualization. I think it also shows the different subject areas that we work with in our integrated data warehouse, which lives on Tableau, of course. Each dot represents a table, and each line represents the data between the tables, the relationship between the tables. A lot of tables, a lot of views, a lot of data. As I mentioned, we had to implement data labs in 2015. We got rules, we got process. We follow them most of the time. Customers love it. Continuous improvement opportunities. So CI is kind of a big thing for us. It's getting to be a bigger thing. Anybody ever heard of CI, Lean Six Sigma, white belt, yellow belt, and all that? Cool. I still got to do my training, so I can't talk super intelligent about it, but I will tell you that what I've seen so far, it helps to improve your your redundant processes. It looks for efficiencies. It looks for cleaning things up. And we have found that in certain areas, there's lots of opportunities for efficiency gains. So most specifically here, I'm talking about operational excellence. We're looking at different data types. The maintenance guys, I think they're ingesting and collecting as much data as they can. Teradata actually partners with GE, who makes our engines, so we kind of have a nice little partnership synergy there. We also want to make sure we improve the customer experience. So how do we do that? We continuously measure customer experience. If you've ever flown a Southwest flight, I'm sure Steven's done millions of these, because he's A-list preferred now, I think. Way to go. So you'll get surveys, and we'll ask you, how good was your flight? Was it a happy, happy, joy, joy experience? Did you get the pretzels? Yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. I don't really buy my tickets. I have lots of points I get to use. So, but I still get a survey every once in a while, even when I do get to buy my tickets. We want to make sure that we provide the tools to allow our customers to get at that data as we go through those continuous improvement processes. This slide here is a quick little representation. I like it because it's kind of cute and colorful, and it uses Tableau. And it shows numbers, because we all want to see numbers and stats. Like I said, we got about 500 desktop users, a little over 5,700 server users. Tableau's been at Southwest for 7 years. We've got 32 departments using Tableau now. Is that for real? 32? Wow. They're over there on the left on the bubble chart. You can't really see them. You can zoom in. Like I said, tech ops, they're a big customer. Technology's a big customer, because technology has to support all of these implementations. So, talking about some of the use cases that Stephen alluded to, I want to talk first about marketing and what those guys have been doing. So we implemented something, we call it internally my timer didn't start. We started something called the CDW, the Customer Data Warehouse. It's actually the customer domain in the integrated data warehouse, but I'm a technical guy, so I'll kind of harp on those things. Long story short, what we did is we allowed our marketing team to get at the data from our Siebel Analytics deployment. It's loaded on I would say a near real-time basis, so it's quite agile, it's quite fresh. They can use that to determine the campaigns they want to run. They also work with Adobe Cloud, and that's how they get at that data. The point of this slide here, so averages are evil. Okay, this is not my slide, this is marketing. I'll throw them under the bus a little bit. I'm not marketing. I was a BCIS guy, but the point of this is, don't just look at averages. You got to dig into the data, okay? Because there's going to be variations within the data. There's the old 80-20 rule, 80% of the cause is 20% of the effects, or something like that, the other rule. Behind every average is a distribution, a range of behavior and value. So don't just look at the average and go, okay, average customer flies 3 times a year. I don't really need to market to this segment, so I'll look at somebody else. So the case study I want to talk about is Tableau dashboarding and how marketing uses Tableau to market to not only their internal customers. So we got marketing execs and analysts that have daily meetings. They have dashboards that they look at. One of the things they look at is customer segment migration. So when we're talking about migration, we're not talking about people trying to jump the wall and stuff like that. This is about customers migrating segments. I can't really tell you what the different segments are, and this is a visual representation of that. But what it does show you is we have about 7 or 8 different segments that we track. One of those segments may be like business customers. You may have other kinds of flyers. So what marketing wants to see is they want to see how many people are migrating between these different segments. How can we market to them? How can we focus our campaigns and focus our marketing efforts on these particular segments. So this is kind of like a bigger picture view of that. This is a little bit more zoomed in. So on the left is kind of the big picture. On the right, we're looking specifically at Charlotte, North Carolina area, because it's fun to look at specific use cases. Anybody here from Charlotte? Oh, okay, cool. It's also fun to show just how many queries do we run on this tool, right? We run a lot. Tableau actually wins the race right now. Yeah, they're winning. Probably because they've been around 7 years, and I'm kind of excited to hear about some modeling, some data model enhancements that are being made to the tool, looking at relationships, kind of replacing blends. So hopefully we're not going to get such nasty queries. And I know Jeremy's looking at me like, well, what are you talking about? We'll talk later. So Tableau, Alteryx, I mentioned those were 2 pretty big, important tools of ours. We still have good old-fashioned Teradata SQL Assistant. That's actually number 3. If you want to get at the data, if you want to run your old school SQL queries, personally, I think that's the best way to do it, but it's old school like me. Python and R are a couple of new tools and utilities that we offer up kind of on a limited basis. They're growing in popularity. So Stephen mentioned kind of that hybrid cloud experience, that agility that we want to offer to our internal customers. We have a pretty large data science team at Southwest Airlines, and they utilize Python quite extensively. They're looking at R. In fact, they also use Tableau. That was one of the other things I wanted to mention. So speaking about dashboards, and we got dashboards all over. We got a dispatch team, the guys that dispatch planes. They use Tableau quite extensively, and in fact, it's so important that it can't ever be down. And they are pulling some metrics from Teradata, as a matter of fact. So what we have is within our network operations center, it's kind of the nerve center for where we dispatch planes. These are guys looking out for weather events and irregular operations. So they use, I wish I had a picture of it, sorry. They use the NOC dashboard to observe and see, okay, what are these different areas that are being hit, and how do we need to reposition planes, and what can we do to enhance the customer experience and make this not quite so painful. So they're big time customers. Our data science team, also wanted to mention that they have regular dashboarding distributions for their own internal teams. They do things like they look at model accuracy, and they look at what are the particular ranges and distributions that they should focus on. They have heat maps that they use, and a lot of stuff that is way smarter than me. So success factors and lessons learned. I think this is in here mostly because our Teradata sales exec, he really likes that picture on the left. He likes the guy with the two fingers who looks like he's swiping something, doing something super futuristic. I like the perfect eyebrows, and I think it's also important to talk about because I don't have those. The success factors are, so number one, it's important to start small. Pick use cases, pick queries that you really want to focus on. Kind of, tease out the details. You got to go through multiple iterations, collaboration. We're mostly an agile shop. We believe in failing as fast as we can, and hopefully not, too big of a body count. But the other important thing that I would point out as an old school admin type guy, success factors are going to come about when you're nice to your admins, okay? When you're nice to your analysts, the guys who are behind the scenes, the ones that you call in the middle of the night and go, hey man, my workflow didn't run, what's going on? Or I can't get at my visualization. So I would just encourage you to, buy a case of beer for your admins, or cookies or whatever they like. We like cookies, we like t-shirts. There are also other things to consider, such as every situation, every data ecosystem is unique. We have a lot of customers that pull data from a lot of different sources. I mentioned Teradata already. We have a lot of customers that use QuickBase, right? And that's kind of one of those, it comes in handy, right? And it's kind of like that next generation Excel. It's that platform that you have to continue to support. It's also very powerful and very flexible for our users, and they love it. We got to make sure we manage it as best as we can. So I think I'm going to cruise on to Stephen's next slide, and thank you.
So what I'm going to conclude on is a discussion of this unified data architecture concept. So one of the points that Ed made is, you've got certain things that are data product. You have service levels. They can't go down. You have to load the data when you need the data. You need to deliver high performance and so on. It's a product. It has SLAs. On the other hand, you have these crazy data scientists running these wild queries that you can't predict how much resources they're going to consume, and they're using R and Python and all this, crazy SQL, and they need to be able to do that, and they can't impact the production stuff. And by the way, they don't want the same level of governance, because actually they are allowed to go down, but they can't take the other system down. So that's why this concept of data labs is actually very important. So if you look up here on this chart, on the top in mode 1, so I'm using this Gartner terminology, mode 1 is run the business. Give the answers to people that they need to run the business every day. Right? I'll call that operational BI if you want, but actually marketing campaigns are also run the business, right? The campaigns don't get out, we don't sell tickets, we don't fill planes, that's a bad thing, right? But down at the bottom, the data R&D, these are the data labs. And data scientists should be able to provision data labs on demand, right? Without going through, IT to do it, right? Anything between the data scientist and the data is the enemy. Oftentimes they're spelled DBA. Right? And so we don't want that, right? So self-service, what Ed's done with this self-service initiative is get the DB out of the middle, right? DBA wants to be your friend, doesn't want to be the enemy, right? So you want to enable the self-service, and those data scientists, they're okay with working with data that's not as well governed as some of the stuff you might use for your operational BI and your marketing campaigns and so on. So you have this concept of the data lake, right? So we bring the raw data into the data lake, and people have different names for it. Staging area, landing zone, there are many different names for it, right? Data lake is the new cool name. I think data reservoir is even better, right? Lakes are a random act of nature. I'd rather have it man-made for a purpose. I prefer reservoirs over lakes. But whatever you want to call it, right? Raw data, highly agile. I should be able to get, assuming you have permission to access the data, I should be able to get the data in there in less than 24 hours. I know that's aspirational for a lot of you maybe, and I'm not counting the bureaucracy of getting permission, because that we architects don't have any control over that, right? But we should be able to provision, profile it, make it accessible. Now that's not the data in your data lake that you should be letting end users directly access, because it's not been curated. You need a very low cost per terabyte in that infrastructure, right? And once the data scientists find the value, then you need to have governance processes to promote from those data labs into your data product. And once we promote into the data product, now we're going to commit to service levels. And that data is going to be, and it's going to be integrated into the data model, right? So in the data labs, we're kind of doing this wrangling thing where we're torturing the data until it tells us what we need to do. And data scientists can do that. We don't want knowledge workers having to do that if they're, what I would call the knowledge workers who are consuming the answers, which is different than looking for the questions, right? So the data scientists, they're looking for the questions. It's a very different ballgame than looking for the answers. So we need to recognize that there are different service levels. There are even different technologies, potentially, right? And the technologies are themselves evolving. A lot of Teradata customers in the early days for on-prem deployments, they would be deploying, for example, on Hadoop distributed file system, right, with whatever your favorite distribution is. These days, it's probably down to one. Cloudera is the last man standing in Hadoop. But as people migrate to the cloud, they're migrating into native object store of S3 or Microsoft Blob storage or Google Cloud storage, right? So there's migration. The architecture is the same, but some of the technologies will evolve, right? And so architecting your system, understanding the differences between this data lake concept, which is really the raw data, so that you can innovate in your data science labs, and also the raw data for transforming into consumable data into your data product. So that integrated data warehouse at the top, the product, we're in Southwest and Walmart and lots of other customers here at this conference. That's the Teradata system, but it's not only Teradata. There might be cubes and spreadsheets and SAS data sets and other things in there that are part of your production infrastructure, right? And same thing with the data labs. Some analysts want to use SQL, others want to use R or Python or Spark or whatever, and you should give the data scientists a lot of freedom. And it doesn't mean that just because they used a particular tool in the data lab that it's necessarily going to be promoted into production in exactly the same way. There needs to be a governance process to say, well, it was well and good that you sort of did this very, agile, fast demonstration of value, but we got to scale it out, and we got to support it, and we got to make it cost effective and so on. And then you sort of figure out what those technologies are going to be. But if they can align those technologies, right? So if someone is, using, let's say, MATLAB to develop some very interesting analytic. Great that they could do that very quickly because I learned it in university and so on. But when you start to want to support it at a Southwest scale or a Walmart scale, I'm pretty sure IT governance can say, maybe not, right? It's a good university tool, but let's look at R or SAS or something that's a little bit more robust that we can support and scale. And by the way, we're willing to invest in you data scientists to teach you how to use R, so maybe the next prototype you can do in R. But for innovating, you should be able to use whatever you want, failing fast and cheap, but you need a promotion process, and that's really the key. These data labs should not be permanent black market data marts, right? Data scientists are not good data engineers. Right? So you need the data engineers to help put the robustness, the automatic failover and restart and encryption of PII data and all these kind of things that typically data scientists is not really where they spend their brain cells, right? And these need to be cross-functional teams. So it doesn't work when the data scientist throws something over the fence And then the data engineers are meant to go put it into production. This is a disaster. You get into this antagonistic waterfall kind of thing, and it's completely wrong. You will never succeed, right? So success, as Ed alluded to, when you adopt Agile, you create cross-functional teams. The data engineers and the data scientists are on the same team, right? And sometimes when you have these different personalities, right, sometimes you need a family counselor, right, to get them to talk to each other. And you ever been in a household where the teenagers, that's data scientists, and the parents, that's IT, right, responsible IT people, they don't talk to each other? Teenagers and the parents, business and IT, right? They got to talk every day, right? So the family counselor, that's the scrum master, right? Every day, 15 minutes, it doesn't have to be long, 15 minutes, you stand up and you talk, 15 minutes. What did I do today? What am I going to do tomorrow? What are my blockers? And we're a team. When we start talking to each other, teenagers eventually always realize their parents weren't as stupid as they thought they were, right? They get annoyed in the beginning, but eventually you realize that actually we're a better team together. So these cross-functional teams are really important. But having an architecture that supports the innovation, that's the data labs down at the bottom, right? The Mode 2 data R&D, as well as the productionalization of your data products. This is very critical to realize that it's got to be part of your architecture. So your architecture, your organizational structure, how you work together, all of this is critically important.